Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies. And this is Antarctica, the Unknown by Otto Wolfgang. An article from Rosicrucian Digest, Volume 49, Number 3, March 1971. 3 United States naval vessels pushed together to move huge icebergs from channel of broken ice leading to McMurdo Station, Antarctica. Antarctica, the Unknown by Otto Wolfgang. In spite of tremendous effort during the last 15 years to unlock the secrets of Antarctica, this continent remains the unknown land of the South, as it was called in Aristotle's days. The more scientists search, the more mysteries to be solved are uncovered, but progress is being made. In 1966, Peter Scott, son of the famous polar explorer, visited the Antarctic continent. He pointed out that half the scientific research now drawing people to the area is on topics not even guessed at in his father's day. And he predicted that new fields requiring polar research will continue to appear. The future of the Antarctic continent seems to be linked to the future of science itself, and our future survival hangs much on the icy hands of this mother of ice ages. Unlocking the secrets of the South Pole region. For instance, just what is occurring in the South Pole where 95% of the Earth's ice and snow lies? Is it retreating or advancing? If it is melting, it will eventually flood all the world's great port cities and cover the Statue of Liberty. If it is advancing, it will freeze much more of the Earth's water, become heavier and sink further into the Earth's soft shell. Could new lands be formed out of the undersea mountains and old lands drowned? If it become too heavy with ice and snow, could it tip the Earth's axis, as some scientists speculate once occurred, converting tropics or temperature zones into polar regions? No one knows for sure, but all scientists know this: it will not remain stable. After all, there was once lush vegetation at the bottom of several hundred feet of snow and ice. Signpost at the southern tip of the South Island, New Zealand. The world will have much need of this land, its space, as large as Europe and the United States combined, and its resources in the years ahead. Scientists believe that there are great treasures of oil and minerals yet to be found, since the mountains here are an extension of the Rockies and the Andes that have yielded so much wealth. Already some 200 minerals have been found. At present, their extent is imperfectly known, and it will take time and much detailed geological search to catalog them. Even if the minerals prove to be extensive and valuable, a vast coal field has recently been uncovered. The techniques for exploration do not now exist, but in a society characterized by rapid technological advance, it would be unwise to say that the necessary techniques cannot be developed. Incredible to many people, tourism has actually begun to this area. Of course, there are no hotels, airfields, or other facilities, but visitors to Antarctica have been made with ships from Australia, Belgium, Britain, France, and South Africa ever since 1958. Ancient man knew or suspected that a great southern continent existed. The Greeks 2,200 years ago, who knew that the earth was round, figured that it was needed to balance the land masses of the Northern Hemisphere. Although none of them ever saw it, they gave the region its name. In Greek, Antarctica means the opposite of the Arctic. The Polynesians, including the Maoris of New Zealand, had legends about the white land to the south of them, and their big canoes had sailed south until stopped by this ice mass. It is possible that a number of ships blown off course by the great storms around Cape Horn may have glimpsed of the Antarctic islands. The first documented discovery of land within the Antarctic continent was not made until the 18th century. On July 1st, 1739, a French expedition under Bouvet de Lozier sighted a snow-covered, fog-shrouded island in the South Atlantic, now called Bouvet Island. Captain James Cook of the British Navy brought to an end the dream of an inhabited southern continent, containing riches as the legend says. Between 1772 and 1775, he sailed completely around Antarctica and was the first man to cross the circle. He found only great expanses of pack ice and huge icebergs. Many scientists believe that the Indian Peninsula and the continents of the Southern Hemisphere, Australia, South America, Africa, and Antarctica, once formed a single great land mass called Gondwanaland. They think that at some far distant time Gondwanaland broke up and the pieces drifted across the surface of the earth to their present positions. Not all scientists accept the theory of continental drift, even though there is considerable evidence in its favor. Some believe that the axis of the planet has tipped and the poles have changed positions. All, however, recognize that Antarctica once had a very different climate than it does now. A variety of plant fossils included giant ferns and the trunks of trees have been found. There are also great quantities of coal, which is formed from plants. It would appear that as late as 100 million years ago, Antarctica was covered by an extensive rainforest and its climate was quite like Northern California today. Similarities. There is considerable evidence to back up one or the other of these theories. For instance, a peculiar type of magnetic rock found in Australia was also found in Antarctica. Where these lands once joined, there are plant similarities too, between those grown in Antarctica and South America. One part of western Antarctica extends northward within 600 miles of the tip of South America. Geologically, the peninsula resembles the Andes Mountains, of which it is probably a continuation. In 1962, two young geologists working 325 miles from the South Pole discovered a bone embedded in a rock. It was part of a jawbone of a labyrinthodont, a large lizard-like amphibian that flourished about 200 million years ago. This was one of the great fossils found of this century. For one thing, it was the first proof that a land animal that was a vertebrate had lived in Antarctica. And since this animal could not tolerate salt water, it proved another piece of evidence that the southern continents were connected to each other millions of years ago. Antarctica is without a doubt the coldest spot on the Earth. On August 24th, 1960, the temperature at the Soviet's Vostok station reached 126.9 degrees below zero, the lowest temperature recorded anywhere in the world. The average temperature there is 35 degrees colder than the Arctic. This is also the windiest and stormiest spot on Earth because the oceans around the continent offer no obstacle to the storms that move from west to east. The coast of South Australia frequently has winds of over 100 miles an hour, caused by the ice above the high ice plateau, which cools, becomes heavier, and flows down towards the sea, picking up speed as it goes. Oddly, there is extremely little precipitation in some areas. The high plateau that covers most of Antarctica is the world's largest and driest desert. The amount of water that falls as rain or snow varies from place to place. In 1929, Admiral Byrd installed a 75-foot radio tower at the Bay of Whales. 30 years later, only 4 feet remained above the surface. On the other hand, at the Soviet Vostok station on the plateau, there has been virtually no snow accumulation in 10 years. This continent, where 95% of the world's ice is located, has almost no fresh water. Every other continent has at least one river over 2,000 miles long. But the closest thing to a river in Antarctica is a stream of meltwater from a glacier. Such a cold, dry area cannot support much life of any kind. It is a pity since here is the purest air on Earth, having more oxygen and nitrogen than any other air. ice shelves. Because Antarctica is a land mass, snow could pile up on it and compact into ice. As this ice layer increases in thickness, in some places to over 14,000 feet, its great weight caused it to push outward towards the oceans, grinding over the land beneath, pouring through mountain valleys in the form of glaciers, and often separating out across the sea as ice shelves. The largest of them, the Ross Ice Shelf, covers an area about the size of California. Ice shelves are attached to the land at the inside edge and float at the outside edge. When great pieces break off, they are known as icebergs. Some can be as large as the state of Delaware. Even if all under ice topography were known, it would still be impossible to predict what Antarctica would look like if the ice should melt. It is true that if the tremendous weight of the ice cap were removed, the continent surface beneath would rise, probably by 2,500 feet, but it would not do so uniformly. What is more, some of the land would still be hidden because the melting of the ice would rise the level of the seas. No one knows how much the water would rise, but 200 feet is a common estimate. Detector. Cat on the glacial ice of Skeleton Glacier, Antarctica. The Worcester Range of mountains can be seen in the distance. Antarctica is a wonderful laboratory for glaciologists. As late as 10,000 years ago, during the most recent of the ice ages, much of North America, Europe, and Asia was covered by a great ice sheet. Today, only traces remain on Greenland and other Arctic islands, but glaciologists can still see the ice age in Antarctica and study its mechanics. With the rapid growth of population in all parts of the world, every source of food will be needed, and the abundant life of the southern seas may contribute notably to the future of mankind. There are vast quantities of plankton on which most Antarctic life is based, and the Japanese and Soviets have been investigating whether plankton can be used for human nourishment. Some speculation too has been given to storing food from bumper crop, years here where it could survive in the frigid cold until needed, perhaps a half century later. Politically, Antarctica has been a point of controversy for some years, with many nations laying claims to certain portions of the land, with many claims overlapping. Prior to the International Geophysical Year, 7 governments had laid claim to portions of Antarctica. They were Argentina, Australia, Chile, France, New Zealand, Norway, and the United Kingdom. 3 of these claims, those of Argentina, Chile, and the United Kingdom, overlapped one another. The United States, which had explored more of Antarctica than any other country, had made no territorial claim of its own, and did not recognize the claims of others, though it reserved the right to make a claim based on the activities of its citizens. The policies of the other non-claimants, included the Soviet Union, were similar. An Antarctic Treaty was signed in 1959, which provides that the Antarctica shall be used for peaceful purposes only. This treaty does not affect the status of any existing claim to Antarctic territory, but it does provide that no activity taking place while the treaty is enforced shall be used as the basis of a claim. In other words, the situation is frozen in the pattern that existed on June 23, 1961. There may be an international struggle for the white continent someday, but as Admiral Byrd said, I am hopeful that Antarctica, in its symbolic robe of white, will shine forth as a continent of peace, as nations working together there in the cause of science set an example of international cooperation. Byrd lived long enough to see his dream on its way to accomplishment. When he died in 1957, a dozen nations were engaged in an all-out assault to unlock secrets of Antarctic icy waste. During the International Geophysical Year, over 60 scientific stations were established, the greatest invasion of the South Pole in history. While some of these stations were closed at the end of the IGY, new and permanent ones were built, improving the way men live in Antarctica. More must be known about the South Pole region if we are to understand the world and the universe better, and it will be done in the next generation. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.